I'm Kathy Garner. I'm the relationship artist. And what I do is I try to help people love well and live with purpose. What I really love doing is working with couples who've kind of lost their way a bit and helping them to mesh their lives and their hearts back together and growing their love again. So I feel incredibly grateful for what I do. I just love it because what I teach is based on the science of love, which doesn't sound exciting or romantic. But what I've discovered through that is that love is not fated. Love is not about being lucky or finding the one. We tend to have this biological imperative, don't we, to get together. But unless we link our creativity to that, then nothing really happens, or it fades, or it dies. What I've discovered through my kind of what I call my desperate decade of dating between two marriages, when I went out and I just read and I experimented, and I discovered that there are 4 toxic habits that we have to avoid if we want to make love work. There are 3 skill sets that make it work, 2 different mindsets. One of them kind of draws us towards love and one repels love. And there's one thing above all others that really makes love thrive. Now, what I've seen in happy couples is that they do the 4, 3, 2, 1 kind of habitually. They do it unconsciously. And equally unconsciously, unhappy couples don't do it. It doesn't sound romantic, but the more I teach it, the more I see that as you teach these skills to couples, they fall back in love and they feel the feelings and it feels like it's meant to be. It feels like it's fated. Because I figure if we want to sail the stormy seas of life with someone, and here we get to the metaphor, what do we need? We need a strong relationship. First, we build the hull. So that represents friendship. And you can see, I don't know if you can see the words, but you can see all the elements of those friendships. And then we hoist the sails, because emotion is the wind in the sails of our relationships. If we don't have emotion, if we don't know how to manage our emotions, then we're not going anywhere. Our ship is not sailing. And then we climb the rigging and we go up into the crow's nest and we look out and we get a glimpse of our happily ever island. We get a vision for our relationship, because relationships without a vision fail. And then we use the ship's wheel and we navigate. These are the rituals and the habits and the calendar perhaps that we set up for our relationships, and we navigate towards that vision and away from the icebergs, which are the 4 relationship killers. So this takes a while to teach, obviously, but when we do this stuff, then relationships work. But of course, I'm sure that you can see the problem in this model. We might colour in all the boxes perfectly. We might learn how to solve problems. We might learn how to have open conversations so that when our fists are clenching against each other, we look inside and we understand the beautiful principles that we're really trying to protect when we're fighting. There's so much in the model that really helps us turn love on its head, our concepts of love, the myths about love. But we've got this paradox, which is that we don't always want to do it. Or if we do, we want to do it when our partner's doing it. So on one hand, we have this survival instinct. We need our needs to be met. On the other hand, do you want to be loved because you're meeting someone's needs? We sense that real love must be unconditional, and that we need love most when we're least able to give it. So it has to be unconditional if we're going to make it last. But if you're anything like me, before I discovered this stuff, then you're probably terrified at the thought of loving someone unconditionally and not having your needs met, and the abandonment of that. And here's where it gets really curious, because when we leap into this mindset, what we find is that our needs do get met. And when we stay with the conditional mindset, I'll meet your needs if you meet mine. I'll be loving and appreciative and admiring and treasure time with you if you'll do the same for me. When we do that, love fades. People feel that they're being judged, critiqued, that they're under scrutiny. And when we feel that, what happens? Our guards go up. and we find ourselves in icy waters. We find ourselves falling into criticism and defensiveness and contempt and emotional disengagement. And those are the 4 things, in fact, the only 4 things that you can do wrong in a relationship. If you don't do those, your relationship will survive. And if you do these, your relationship will thrive. So we've got these 2 mindsets: unconditionally loving, doing this stuff, or seeking to make sure that our partner's doing this stuff. And of course, well, I'll tell you a story. So I was at a party once, and we arrived and the tables were laden with strawberries and chocolate, melted chocolate and whipped cream. And before we ate, our host said, there's only one rule: you can't feed yourself. And so you can imagine the hilarity as we're dipping and cramming sticky fruit into each other's mouths, because we were unself-conscious and unselfish. We were having a brilliant night serving each other. And that mindset was to meet your need for strawberries and chocolate, not my own. But by definition, love cannot depend on you meeting my needs. A day came when I simply didn't want to use the relationship skills. When I'm like that, I just go to my studio and I began to draw. And I drew into the lines and the shadows of my face the love that I wanted to feel, the gratitude I wanted to have, the lover I wanted to be. And I softened by becoming the loving wife I wanted to be. So this is the technique that I use to draw people closer to each other, and to draw myself closer to love and to being that loving person that I really want to be. The portrait is made up, not of sketching lines, but of words and of sentences. This is a portrait of my dad, and this was my memories of my dad. And you can see in the chin there, empathy and integrity and wisdom, and the qualities that my dad really embodied during his life. And what I do now is to do with this climbing up into the crow's nest part of the model. And I offer this to couples. And I give them the chance to talk about their vision for their life, for their own lives and for their life together. And I draw it into the lines and shadows of their face. And what they see is their identity looking back at them changed. Within 3 months of this, she lost masses of weight. She was talking about losing weight in her portrait. He had also been promoted into a leadership position. He wrote about leadership in his eyebrows. This is what happens time and time again. As people look at their new identity, it shifts that self-sabotaging part that says, don't change, don't do anything differently, you're fine. And it helps them to grow closer to the loving couple that they really want to be.